What's going on, everybody? Not only are we back once again, but I'm back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. I had a delightful week off this last week between Nashville and Denver, and I'm stoked to be back once again on a Throwback Thursday, September 21st, 2023. I'm joined by the usual suspects on Throwback Thursday. First and foremost, I think I pointed the wrong way. Head of Opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you doing on this fine Thursday, my friend?
I'm doing all right. It's good to see you back. It's good to have the Thursday crew in full unison together, and an eventful day in wrestling. Not only was Dynamite last night, but WWE's been a little heavy-handed with the pink slips today. So we'll cover that, and of course the throwback topic as well.
What a wild day in that regard. Excellent point there. And of course, as usual, my Tuesday night, bro, did an unbelievable job hosting Tuesday Night Wrestling off the air with Drizzy and Kobe filling in. Dude, Shad, how are you on Thursday? Throwback Thursday.
What's going on, man? Good to see you back, bro. I'm doing well, man. Got to give a shout outs to the bro David last week for filling in and watching, breaking down the throwback topic and reviewing Dynamite. And salute to Kobe, man. And yeah, bro, it was fun hosting. If y'all ever need me, I'm here.
I love it. I love it, dude. You did an awesome job. It was absolutely outstanding. But let's get right into Dynamite because we got both Grand Slam Dynamite and, of course, these wacky, if not a little bit expected releases from WWE, and even a fun throwback topic as usual. So let's start though with the opening match from last night's Grand Slam, which of course was Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli. Wild match, one that's been built for a long time, a rivalry, right? They can't stand each other. It nearly appears real at times. I do have to give them that in regards to this build. The hatred, I thought like something must have happened in ROH or somewhere along the road because it feels so serious. Anthony, I'm going to toss it to you first. How did you like this match and the result, Eddie getting the job done basically in his hometown?
I absolutely think that was the right move. I remember when we were at Supercard WrestleMania weekend, we all thought Eddie was probably going to take the title and he didn't. The animosity between the two guys, I really don't know 100% whether or not there is a legitimate animosity there. I think it started with Chikara back in the day, which I never watched, but I think a lot of their history, allegedly, whether it's real or not, starts from there. Eddie going over in his hometown was the right move. They put on an incredible match. Arguably, I think it set the tone for the rest of the night. As we'll get through, I don't really think the rest of the matches were able to top it. I think this was probably the match of the night, at least for me. It was hard-hitting. It was competitive. It's what it needed to be. I think they could have went New York Street Fight with this, but they didn't. They went title for title. It was hard-hitting enough. I think they did a nice job with it. I enjoyed it.
I agree. I thought this was a really, really good match. I think outside of the crowd reaction in the main event, that this was probably the match of the night. But the crowd was just so hot for Max. It's hard for me to not give that one the nod, but we'll discuss that one later. Shaw, did you enjoy this opening match as much as me and Anthony?
I enjoy it, bro. I was ecstatic for this, man. I think Eddie Kingston is one of the most underappreciated, underrated, and sometimes underutilized wrestlers on the AEW roster. I mean, you talk about a guy who brings so much realness to a feud, and that's what you saw going into this match. This was one of those, like, he's a kind of person that just doesn't get out of kayfabe, or if he doesn't like Claudio, I don't know, but he's really making you believe that he's got beef with Claudio, and it just makes it sells the fight a lot more. Obviously, you see it in combat sports with boxers or MMA fighters. It makes it a lot more realistic, and I just enjoyed the feud going into it. But more importantly, man, I love the moment. Like this guy getting a victory in his home crowd, like it's way overdue. Like Eddie Kingston deserves this moment. Eddie Kingston deserves whatever belt you can put on, on his waist. Like the guy is top notch, man, and it was a great moment to see him win. Great match as well, and I think you have yourself a perfect person to kind of be the face of a champion on the ROH roster. And I hope they build it to that standpoint where it makes it more of a utilization to Eddie, where he shows that he can be a dominant champion. You can put him in more compelling storylines with people that may be on the ROH roster or even through like on the AEW roster to put on the ROH television. But yeah, overall, this was one of the highlights of the night for me.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was an awesome match, and you mentioned like Eddie Kingston deserved it. I'm like, I think he earned this one, like too, with the work that he's put in the last year. Really, like that's both right, deserved and earned, because the work he's put in over the last year has been outstanding, both on the microphone, and he's also played he's worn multiple hats, right? We forget, like, I've only mentioned the last year so far, but if you go back to like, his introduction to the AEW audience, he played a heel role and challenged Jon Moxley in an I Quit match, and then turns around and he's led multiple different groups, right? I mean, even the as a heel with the Penta, my best friend stuff, was just quality work, and his versatility is underrated on top of his just magnetism, right? Like, and I think the rivalry with Miro was the real start to me in 2021, that TNT title match, which was another opening match. There's something about Eddie Kingston in a big title match in the opener that really works because of the intensity, I think, of his entrance with like the DMX, like, you know what I mean?
I love his theme song.
Yeah, it just to fire you up to start the show out of the gates. Like, there's really not much more in my eyes that you can ask for than that. And to be able to have, two prestigious titles as they did last night, and that entrance to kick it off with a guy like Claudio. Remember, like, what is it? It's been 2 years since Claudio beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Like, right? Like,
he had a solid feud with Roman Reigns in the initial part of his title reign as well. I mean,
that's kind of mind-numbing to think about how fast this has all gone, especially with the context of all the WWE releases today. Right? I mean, wild stuff. We've got a few comments here. Bobby Petito first out of the gates with hello guys. What's going on, Bobby? Good to see you. It's been too long, my friend. And then we got another comment here from WWE_26. Hi guys, what's going on? We got a couple more comments from Bobby about the releases, which I'll show when we get to those. And then one here about who would you guys like, from also Bobby Petito, who would you guys like to see wrestle against Eddie Kingston for the ROH World Championship? I think this is a rematch scenario probably out of the gates, Bobby, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, one of the biggest problems they have is there is no defined Ring of Honor roster. So I don't really know who they would put in that position. Do they want an AEW guy to go down there, or they like? There's really not any. The only Ring of Honor guy is what, like Dalton Castle, like, and the Kingdom, like realistically,
Samoa Joe already got another title too.
Yeah, so like, I mean, you could give it to Joe again, and Joe has double belts. You could do that if you want.
I want to see that feud.
That's a smart play, but at the same point, it would be a short reign for Kingston. Like, realistically, if you just want to do a short reign for him, you could do that.
I have a pick out of left field here. Mike Santana. Because of their history in LAX, Santana's doing this. You got to roll the dice thing. He's going on a solo run. I think he's an underrated worker. As long as his knee's healthy, the build, given their history with LAX and everything, it is out of left field. I completely understand that, right? But watching that vignette that he just recently posted, I think they could have a really fun rivalry. And remember Ortiz, speaking of Eddie's best friends, very recently still, they've had interactions. If he can insert himself into that rivalry too, maybe not in a triple threat match, but pick a side, probably Eddie's in this scenario. I think that could be really interesting because I do think Santana is bell to bell good enough for a singles run and underratedly charismatic. I've always believed that. As much as I don't like that tag team splitting, I'd prefer they stay together. But if that's not an option,
it doesn't look like it, Clark. It doesn't look like they want anything to do with one another, personally or professionally.
Exactly. I do think Santana is the one that I would choose to go on the bigger singles run of the two.
Oh yeah, of the two, Santana has the bigger upside.
I think so for sure. And then go ahead.
Go ahead.
We had a couple more comments from Bobby. Bobby Petito suggested Shane Taylor, and then Bobby Petito also suggested Josh Woods.
I was gonna say 2 points real quick. One, it goes to what is defined as the ROH roster and what's the AEW roster. There's not a lot of meat on the bone to ROH roster that has, high marquee people that can draw you into a main event feud. So, like you mentioned, Santana would be an incredible opponent. Him and Claudio may be running it back, but these are guys who are pretty premier people on the Dynamite shows. And I guess my mindset is, what's the difference between Dynamite, Collision, ROH? That's a neither here or there. If we're talking solely ROH, I like what Bobby said. I think Shane Taylor would be an excellent opponent, and especially now they're starting to, put the wheels on him. They're giving him Lee Moriarty finally. Glad to see Lee Moriarty still a wrestler on their on their company. I think you could do something creative in regards to that, but I guess it's kind of a wait and see process. We'll see what happens.
I totally agree, and Shane Taylor I think is a fun suggestion. I really do like Shane Taylor's work a lot, and we got a couple more comments here from either Chaos or his assistant over at Take It to the Table. Good evening from the UK, and then one more from either Chaos or his assistant over at Take It to the Table. Dynamite was a solid show despite the ending to the opener. Well wishes go to Mox. Yes, absolutely on Moxley, and we'll get there in a minute. But our next topic, let's talk about Sammy Guevara and Jericho. This was a match that I wasn't necessarily overly over the moon looking forward to, but I did enjoy the little throwback to Michaels Jericho. That was fun. And even though it was pseudo telegraphed, it was fun. It was cool. It was the best way, I think, for Jericho to win and then still give Sammy the rub, right? And that's the reason that I liked it. Was it the best match ever? No. Was it the best match of Jericho's career? Not close. Sammy's, no. But it was good enough. It was exciting, and I did like the call out, the shout out to Jericho Michaels at Mania. Shad, I'm gonna toss it to you first. How'd you like this one?
I didn't like it.
Okay,
so how I liked it, I didn't like it. I thought the match was very clunky. That's the thing, man. When you try to copy and paste something that is from the past, maybe your mind kind of like tries to hone in and you're trying to act it to a T where it just doesn't come natural. And I think in a lot of that standpoints, it just didn't come natural. Like the chemistry between both of them was very clunky, man. It didn't mesh together. There was a lot of botched spots within it, and it annoys me because it's another case of, I guess I understand what you're saying, that Sammy kind of gets a rub, and obviously Sammy to the end. Well, first and foremost, the match itself, I didn't like it all, but the significance was the ending of it. So we'll go from there. With him aligning with Don Callis, but now it goes to the point where it's like, this is obviously extending again. Like, it's not done. These two are not done wrestling each other or having a feud amongst each other. We might take a little break from it. He might have his little match with Daniel Garcia, but my excitement going into this match was that this is finished. We don't got to see Jericho and Sammy Guevara have to deal with each other anymore. We've seen them dealing with each other for the last few years, for the last few months, and now it's a continuation of it. And that adds no excitement to me. Now, I'll say this. Don Callis is probably, besides, to people's point, maybe Christian Cage, one of the top heel heats on the AEW roster. He's an incredible manager, and he might be able to bring some life back to Sammy. But if it's leading to a Jericho feud where Jericho is going to be the babyface, then Jericho's overly going to win again. Like, he won the match last night, and I don't see a factor where he's going to lose to Sammy within the feud if they continue it. And he doesn't need to. Like, Jericho doesn't need to win feuds with anybody anymore. He is a Hall of Famer. He's arguably one of the GOATs. What else do you have to prove, man? Like, you should have just put this young boy over. Like, the callbacks to him and Michaels was cute, but it didn't move me. I think I was so removed from that ending segment just because I didn't like the match, where it just took me out of it completely. So this was the lowest spot of the episode for me to last night, without a doubt.
I hear you there, Anthony. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You built this match up, and like I said last week on the show, I really had no interest going into this. I felt it was a step back for Sammy. This is a guy that a couple months ago he was in a 4-way for the AEW World Championship, and now he gets recycled back into Jericho's nonsense. I understood what they were trying to do, the homage to Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho, where now the roles are reversed, where now Jericho is the veteran, the GOAT, and Sammy is playing the Jericho role. It was nice that they, Sammy's tights were similar to Jericho's tights from WrestleMania 19. And Jericho was also wearing red and black tights, which were the same color tights that Shawn was wearing back then. But realistically, this match really didn't do anything. It was a botch disaster. Jericho went over for no reason whatsoever. They essentially ripped off the same finish from WrestleMania 19 of the low blow. And the only difference is you've now added Don to this. But honestly, Sammy needs to stand on his own. He's been on Jericho's bandwagon from day one, and he really needs to break out on his own. But honestly, I don't know if he has it in him to actually be a main event guy on his own. He was in the 4-pillar one, but I don't see anything in Sammy that makes me go, this is a guy that can carry a company. And I don't think the people in AEW, the management, Tony Khan, I don't think they necessarily see that either. That's why they keep putting him with mouthpieces, whether it's Jericho or now it's Don Callis. And it's like, I don't have any interest to see this continue, but it's going to. It's going to get to Jericho and Omega tagging against Takeshita and, Sam. There's going to be a whole thing, probably a Bush. You have too many people involved in this. And unfortunately, I don't care. They have not given me anything to even remotely care about this.
I hear a lot of where you guys are coming from on this. The only thing I will say though is I did actually also enjoy the catching the code breaker on the shooting star press. That was a cool little spot. That part of the finish wasn't bad either. I didn't mind that at all. That was a good looking. That was probably the best looking spot of the match itself. I agree. The first half of it was aggressively slow and there was some weird stuff until maybe the lion salt. I thought it was interesting. He did it like he used to in WCW, away from the hard camera instead of towards it like he did in WWE, or on the side. He did often. I thought that was kind of funky. Like it was an old Lionheart moonsault. I don't know. And I also thought it was interesting. No walls and no Judas effect. It was like only code breakers. It was like he was using his best in the world moveset more than
he was using his WrestleMania 19 moveset.
Like a lot of it, yeah.
Shawn, yeah.
Which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that I would add. Although, I mean, he still has Sammy works so quickly. I think that also hurt the match a little bit, which isn't Sammy's fault. He's just that athletic, but Jericho just doesn't have that speed anymore. Right. And whereas Ospreay against Jericho at All In was able to slow down and keep Jericho on the right pace.
It's
right?
different, and that shows the difference in the worker, though.
Sammy just didn't adjust the same way.
Sammy can't adjust, and he's nowhere near the level of Ospreay.
He's younger, right? He's similar athleticism, but he's just.
I think he's older than Ospreay.
Is he really?
He's like 30, bro.
Is Sammy 30? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he might be older. I'm not 100% certain.
Interesting. Either way, let's talk about another one. International Championship match. We had Jon Moxley defending against Rey Fenix.
Mm-hmm.
This one was a really good match for a lot of it, I thought. I was entertained.
Mm-hmm.
Then it got real funky.
Mm-hmm.
Really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Really funky. Okay, also the answer to the Ospreay Sammy thing, as Anthony Shad just provided in the chat.
They're both 30. They're both 30.
They're both 30.
Mm-hmm.
Same age. Boom.
Yeah.
Same age. Nice. Wait a minute. We got a comment here. Is that? Yep. Hang on. Bobby confirmed it for us here too. Thank you, Bobby. Everyone was on that one. No, but let's talk Phoenix and Moxley really quickly.
Yes.
Entertaining match the whole way until. I mean, the finish, I guess, in a way was entertaining because it was one of those like gigantic question marks. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like Mox may have been hurt on the initial one.
Mm-hmm.
The initial one didn't look as violent as the second one. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand why he didn't just count to 3 the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was baffled. Anthony, what do you think happened here?
My initial thought with the 3 count, my initial thought was either Moxley made a botch and forgot to kick out, or the ref made a mistake and didn't realize that was the finish. Obviously, as reports have come out, there's a possibility Moxley may have had a concussion. At that point, I am frustrated by anything because that was so irresponsible what they did. As far as the 3 count goes, I want to go back to what legendary referee Mike Chioda has said in an interview. They asked him, hey, what do you do in those situations when, somebody's shoulders up and it's supposed to be the finish, or the shoulders down and it's not the finish? He said WWE referees have been instructed to treat every 3 count as if it's a shoot. So whether it's the finish or not, they are told to either stop the count if the shoulder's up or count to 3. I don't know what the standard is in AEW. And quite frankly, it's Rick Knox. And I've said before, I'm not a fan of him as a referee. I think he's only in that position because he's friends with the Bucks. I don't think he's very good. But why you wouldn't count to 3? And then you hear the announcers go, oh, he saw him twitch. It was so aggravating when you could clearly tell once the 3 count didn't happen. As an audience member watching from home, I'm looking at it going, okay, Moxley's hurt. Now, how do you not know that in the ring? And I don't know who was responsible for making the call for Moxley to take the same pile driver that he just took that probably knocked him out again. Why would you, a guy possibly has a head injury, you decide to do it again? Whether it was Phoenix's call, he has enough experience that he shouldn't be doing that. If Moxley called for it, he's out there. You shouldn't be taking direction from him in this instance. If it came from the back via the referee, like somebody in the back went, hey, tell them to redo it. No, you either, when you didn't make the 3 count, Rick Knox should have told Phoenix back off, and that's when him and the doctor should have checked Mox. Call the X or do a quick roll-up. Do something to get him to medical treatment. Don't have him take another pile driver. It was aggravating to watch it. I get it, you're in the moment, but the logical decision is not to drop somebody on their head a second time after he clearly is messed up for the first one. It took away from the match because you're watching the end going, okay, this is just irresponsible to just do this. That was my thought.
I completely hear you there. Yeah, I agree. And I didn't think of it from the head injury standpoint because honestly, the first pile driver, I think if he did have the concussion, not if it is officially a concussion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it happened on the first pile driver. I think it had to have happened earlier in the match because the first pile driver looked less stiff than the second one. in my eyes, which was even more bizarre to me in the first place. Shad, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, so if I'm not mistaken, it may have happened when they were outside the ropes, right? When I forgot what the spot was exactly, but someone posted a video where I guess Ray was trying to even grab his hand, and Mox kind of seemed a little, concussed. Obviously, when you have a concussion, but I mean, yeah, it's risky, man. Like that's the most important thing. Like it's so like that second power driver, you know, for God forbid anything bad happen. Like your brain is your brain, man. Like concussions are not anything to play with, and it just seemed very much of a circus in regards to they didn't seem like nobody was on cue on what to do and what to handle. So it definitely took away from a pretty good match. Like obviously that match was great, but it leaves you as a fan like a little bit of a weird feeling in your stomach, man. Like you don't like seeing stuff like happen. Like I mean, it's like the same incident when that Thursday night game last year when with the Dolphins when Tua hit his head and then they didn't initially think he had a concussion and he got hit again, and you saw how he looked. You saw his motions of his fingers were not 100% there. Moxley, in a way, I think this can be a blessing in disguise. The guy needs a vacation. He needs to take care of his body and take care of himself, and just maybe take a little bit of time to, recharge, man. Like, cause you gotta take care of yourself, man. He does a lot of crazy matches and whatnot, but you're a father, you're a husband. Don't put a lot more toll, especially onto your brain if you don't have to.
I totally agree with you there. Yeah, and he works so stiff week in and week out. It's unbelievable. And yeah, we've got another comment here. The WWE releases, here they come. Maybe 1% of them gets the proverbial AEW look. The most likely they're going to Thursday nights to make an impact. Interesting. An interesting comment there. With that though, let's get into the women's world title match, which was, of course, Saraya versus Toni Storm. This was pretty fun. Not the best match I've ever seen. Kind of funny. We had that new finishers out of Saraya is actually pretty good, I think. What is it? It's got a funky name, but it's basically just like an elevated DDT kind of, right? Toni Storm's entrance. Whew, how good is that? It's just awesome. And that delivered as much as anything last night. Shad, how'd you like this match?
The match was average. I mean, and it comes to a case where a lot of these Dynamite women's matches seem to be average, and it seems like a lot of like the Rampage and Collision matches have a little bit more weight to them. But I here's my problem with the match and just the entire feud. It felt like they put this on hyper fast forward mode. And I think TK booked it to a point where he's got a problem because the character development and the presentation of Toni Storm right now, there's not a person, maybe not a person, but definitely not a women's wrestler on that roster that has a more entertaining and captivating character at the moment. And she's not your champ, and she was set to go to that match to lose. And I think myself and maybe everybody else in the arena and on TV wanted her to win. Because the problem you have with Saraya is Saraya has toll and rust as a wrestler at this point. Like, obviously, she's got to move in a snug way due to her neck injury, and she's not going to wrestle that much, and she's not doing much as a champ. So it keeps me detached from her as a champion. And I'm just going to be completely frank. The biggest letdown to me was maybe I sold myself into thinking it, but I really thought Mercedes Moné was going to make a debut on Dynamite last night after that match, just because of the history between them and just all that time set after the match. Because the match wasn't super long, but that's common in AEW for their women's matches. But there was that seconds, and there was her just going around the ring. I was like, okay, she's coming. This is Grand Slam. They're gonna have a debut, and she didn't come. So now it's at a point where it's like, okay, I don't know what Saraya is gonna do next, and I would rather Toni Storm be the champion with this character because her entrance is amazing, her acting is amazing. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of a letdown in general for me.
Yeah, I think so too. And to your point about the ring rust with Saraya, it is kind of obvious, right? She doesn't seem to be all the way back, but hopefully, I think with more work, she will. I love the suggestion of Mercedes Moné. Bobby Petito had a comment, who's next for Saraya? Mercedes Moné would be awesome, right? Anthony, do you have anything to add about this one?
No, I mean, I like the Toni Storm character. This, delusional Marilyn Monroe-esque character, I think is really intriguing. I if they go the direction of she lost and she gets more mentally broken down by the losses and she gets more and more deranged, you might be able to have some fun with that. But like long term, Saraya is not your choice. It shouldn't be your choice to be a long term women's champion with her history of neck injuries. I get the feel good moment of having her win it all in, but like long term, you need to put it on somebody new. Whether it's Toni Storm with this new character or somebody else, Saraya is not the long term choice, I don't think.
I agree with you strongly on that one. With that, though, let's get over to the men's World Heavyweight Championship.
Mm-hmm.
The Triple B, as our good friend MJF likes to call it. And I got to say, that entrance with the Mean Joe Green, the Bret Hart, the giving the kid the scarf,
Mm-hmm.
and then whispering in his ear that he's adopted got me so good.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed so hard. I mean, that was absolutely golden.
Yes.
It was perfect. And somehow they got a kid that kind of looked like maybe what MJF would have looked like as a kid, which made it even funnier to me. Because you really thought it was going to be heartwarming for a second. It got me so good.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when he leans in to whisper, you're like, oh man, we really are getting good guy MJF. And then just wait a minute, Dad, I'm adopted. Like,
he has to remind you he's still the scumbag.
It was perfect. And then the Mets and all the New York teams gear, it was great. It was perfect. I mean, I know you're a Phillies fan and that, but just the hometown crowd and everything.
No, I get it.
It was cool. Joe played his part to a T, I thought, to an absolute T. Like, you can't do any better than Joe did. I think my only complaint is maybe the table spot, but I'm confused because I've heard other people complain about like the table spot, as in, shouldn't that be a DQ? But I've always kind of weirdly felt like tables are the one exception. Like, you know what I mean? Because you can go through an announced table in a regular match. What's the difference if it's like if it's a wooden one, right? Like, tables are kind of maybe if you hit someone with the table, right? But if you are going to make an exception, maybe tables. I'm not sure.
I feel we've had this conversation.
Yeah,
I think you and I have had this conversation.
100%. But that's not the point. But I mean, of course, Max gets the win. The kangaroo kick's still over. Adam Cole with the run in. It was all fun and games the whole time, and then he ends up getting the win. Anthony, how did you like it?
Ultimately, you knew MJF was going to pick up the win, even though, like I said last week on this show, the way they pushed Joe, this killer Joe, I would have been okay with Joe pulling an upset here. I enjoyed it. I cringed when Adam ran down, when you literally saw him either roll his ankle or do something. You knew he was injured. But one thing I do want to point out, which was not directly involved with this match, but earlier when Adam Cole's visiting Roddy in the hospital. One question. Why is Roddy in a hospital in New York when last week's Dynamite, when he collapsed, was in Cincinnati? That would be a question. He doesn't live in New York. So why is he in a hospital in New York? But anyway, the match itself, I enjoyed. I was a little questionable on Joe shaking MJF's hand at the end. I know the argument is, it's respect, but I don't view it the same way as Brock Lesnar and Cody. They went through 3 wars This was one match, and he choked Joe out. I'd rather Joe remain the killer Joe and not shake hands. I would not have done the shake hands part. I'd rather him go on a killing rampage because he's mad, and that could lead him to Kingston, like Shad suggested earlier. Like, to me, that I would have went that direction. Him shaking the hand, I'm like, the killer Joe wouldn't do that. The Joe that was portrayed last week of going, I will take everything from you. He's not going to go, yeah, we're good now, and shake his hand. That bothered me a little bit.
I hear you on that, and it's especially odd considering he still cheated to win with the tape.
Yes.
But I loved when he tried to stuff the tape and dropped it and then distracted the referee, and Adam Cole dives in the ring and gets it and puts it. Yeah. That was golden. Cracked me up. Classic Cole and MJF. I seriously do not want Roddy to keep meddling in their friendship. Keep them together. Cole and MJF content is too good. I'm not done with it yet, but that's just my personal opinion. Shad, how did you like the main event of the evening?
Oh, I enjoyed the main event a lot. I mean, the match itself, I think they did a great job. MJF playing on this neck. This call on just everyone caring about neck health and all these neck injuries on AEW is kind of funny to me. But now the match was solid. I liked the match overall, and then talk about the ending with Max being able to, get the assistance of his brochacho Adam Cole, and being able to, still in a heelish manner choke Samoa Joe out with his assistance with his weapon and getting the win, and just the interaction between Joe and him at the end. Just kind of, two bad guys realizing, like, you know what, son, I respect it. I probably would have done the same thing too. I liked it. The big thing is this, though. I'm curious to see what's going to go on with Adam Cole, because he did get that ankle a little messed up, hopping himself, running through, and they say he had to go to the hospital after that and be on crutches. So I'm hoping Adam is good to go, and hopefully this doesn't cause any issues for him for a long period. And Project Strong is amazing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, from what I viewed of him a month ago to now, this guy is golden, man. He's so funny. So I'm curious to see what's going to go on with that. I feel like there's going to be some bit of a continuation with him and his buddies with the Kingdom and Adam Cole and MJF. So yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see what happens after that.
Definitely, I agree, and Roddy is hilarious. Those segments with Cole all night were comedy gold. I mean, honestly, between those three and this whole storyline, MJF, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, the level of comedy is off the charts. Like, it's so funny. It is really, really funny.
The MVP was the bed. The hospital bed from Roddy creaking.
So funny.
Whoever thought to do that was a nice touch. It would be kind of funny if they did a segment next week where Roddy's in the hospital and Adam's in the other bed with the ankle, and they both have the messed up beds.
And MJF comes to visit, and he like pulls the curtain between them.
Yes.
Comedy. Let me have a meeting.
Yeah.
There's some gold there. That could be really, really good stuff, as it has been the whole time. But with that, let's get on to, unfortunately, a little bit of a somber subject. Mm-hmm. The WWE released a list of names. Mm-hmm. I'm going to run through them real quick. Dolph Ziggler was reported. Shelton Benjamin was officially announced. Elias was reported. Mustafa Ali was announced. Emma was announced. Madcap Moss was announced. Aliyah was announced. Top Dollar was reported. Rick Boogs was reported. Dabba-Kato. Bryson Montana. Shanky. Massey. Mansoor. Quincy Miller. Is that Quincy Jones? Is that Quincy?
It's Quincy, yeah.
Yeah.
We think Miller might be the real name.
Dana Brooke.
You said Quincy Jones.
I said Quincy Jones. Like
Quincy Elliott, I think.
Quincy Elliott, or whatever. Quincy Jones is not a wrestler.
No.
That's funny though. Whatever. At least Sean knows who Quincy Jones is. That's the good news. Quincy Jones was not released from the WWE.
That we know of. As of this airing.
He was never on WWE,
No.
of my knowledge.
To my knowledge, he's never even been affiliated with the WWE. In fact, that's on me, guys, and everybody listening. Sorry about that. But I mean, running through this list, it's crazy. I thought Rick Boogs really had something going. That one stands out to me. Throws me for a loop. Dolph Ziggler, really, after all this time, you pick now. Shelton Benjamin, maybe because of age, I get, but why? Given his talent. And then the other two, besides that really I do not understand. Elias and Mustafa Ali. Like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that at all. I mean, it's the WWE, and Elias is very much the E. And Mustafa Ali is as well-rounded as we have anyone and unique. And he just had so many start-stops. It seems wrong almost. I don't really get it. I'm going to toss it to you first, Shad, and then Anthony. Shad, who stands out the most on this list to you?
Oh, the person that stands out to the most to me is Mustafa Ali in regards to, I know it's not much of a surprise because we've seen the issues that he's had between within the WWE, being upset about creative, requesting his release a couple years ago, but it's more so of a surprise on how do you not have the vision of letting this guy take his creative and just running with it and letting him flourish on your programming. I mean, you said it there, stop and go. I mean, if he never got hurt, it could have very well been him at Mania instead of Kofi Kingston with the Daniel Bryan feud. You talk about giving him just complete garbage with the what is the faction that he was on, Retribution, and trying to make stuff work with it. Like, you've given him so much, and you see how well he does within the confinements of it. Like, he puts his all into it, and that's not even to go on the aspect of how incredible of an in-ring worker he is. Like, those 205 live matches he's had with Cedric and Buddy Matthews and all of them. Like, the guy can work. His work rate is top tier, and his vision is top tier, and him just as a personality is top tier. It's a complete fumble. You finally, put him on the NXT roster, and I feel like there was somewhat of a home for him there. There was somewhat of a direction under HBK's booking where he's in this program for the North American title. He had a match set with Dominic Mysterio at your No Mercy pay-per-view, and you completely just take it away by letting him go. It's just ludicrous to me, man. Like, Mustafa Ali is a huge missed opportunity, but it's not a missed opportunity for him because I have the utmost trust that he's going to be able to go to another wrestling promotion, whether it be Impact Wrestling with the X Division, whether he, gets an opportunity to go to All Elite Wrestling or goes to New Japan, and just knock it out the park because he's that good at what he does. So he's the big one for me. And then a couple other ones that I found surprising are the two vets, man. Like, Dolph Ziggler seemed like a lifer. This guy's been in WWE for decades upon decades now, and you can just tell that they just completely took all love and passion from him by not booking him or giving him any solid booking within this last couple year. And then Shelton Benjamin too, man. Like, he's this late in his career where I feel like it kind of just sucks that he's being let go, because give him a year or so, man. Like, let him work with young talent and let him get his opportunity to be in the Hall of Fame, man. Like, he's in incredible shape. He can still work. He's a vet. And I mean, you literally see him prior to it in with the Hurt Business, how great they did over there too. So I mean, those three. You got Dana Brooke also is another big name. Everybody else, I'll say this before we hand it off to Anthony. You are all young in your careers, and a lot of you guys are just so new into the business. I have a lot of hope and faith for a lot of these people, like a Madcap Moss, a Rick Boogs, even the people on the NXT or a Top Dollar. Like, you got a stain on your resume now. You have the WWE on your resume. take that and just run with it, man. Do what you feel you see your character is. Everything you learned about the business, you played in the NBA already. The little leagues are going to be easy. You won't be able to ball on these courts without a problem. With whether you take these indie bookings, run your money up, man. You go to Impact, kill it over there. Like this doesn't end off for him. Like we've seen people like Matt Cardona shine in the indies. Steph DeLander, like a lot of people that are just absolutely killing it. I think a lot can be the case for a lot of these people, and I think a door does not, like this door closes, but there's a new door, and they're going to be able to have a successful future.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love the points you made there, Anthony. Who on this list stands out to you?
For me, it is Mustafa, without question. Probably the most gifted one of this group, other than Ziggler. But as far as age wise, Mustafa has the most upside of anybody that's on this list. I think the best place for him would be Impact. I think between the X Division and possibly even a future world champion there. Impact tends to have a tendency to give a lot of talent a second chance or their first real chance, and they elevate. Somebody that was released by WWE years ago, Drew McIntyre. He reinvented himself on the indies. One of those indies was Impact. He reinvented himself, and the Drew that you see today was largely invented during the indies and that Impact run as Drew Galloway, his real name. Matt Cardona has completely reinvented himself. It's unfortunate, and you hate to see these people lose their jobs. However, unfortunately, both WWE and AEW have done this. They've signed so many talents in an arms race so that the other one doesn't get said talent, that it's more talent than they have time to actually showcase. And it is, even though it gives these talents obviously a bigger platform and a bigger paycheck, they don't get featured as much. So in a lot of ways, it's a disservice to them because they're really not given the opportunity to really showcase their abilities. When you look at it like an episode of SmackDown, for example, it's a 2-hour show. You take out the commercials, you're looking at about 90 minutes. Well, a part of that 90 minutes has to go to the A-list talent. So that takes up a huge portion of the show. Then you look at something like this past Friday, The Rock comes in. Okay, The Rock goes 15, 20 minutes during his segment. Then they replay it. Then they show it again later in the show. Hey, this happened in the front. So you're looking at maybe 30 minutes of TV time that's been eaten up. So that's a third of the show. It's unfortunate, but there's more talent than there are legitimate spots. And I think in a lot of ways, because WWE has a lot of TV, AEW has a number of hours of programming, that there's this mentality that everyone deserves TV time. Unfortunately, those slots are not just given, and unfortunately, talent gets wasted. But like Shad said, this is not the end of the road for some of these people. If they truly want this, if they really want to pursue this, there's enough wrestling promotions where you can make a decent living, reinvent yourself, make WWE or AEW come look for you. That's what happened with Cody Rhodes. Even though it was his decision to leave, the man reinvented himself. Vince McMahon flew to his house to try to get him back. There's a small number of people that Vince McMahon has gone to them. It's always they've been summoned, whether the Titan Tower or Vince's house. Vince doesn't go to people. So you really need to reinvent yourself. Cardona's doing it. Chelsea Green did it. You know, she was released. She went back to Impact. She succeeded. Now she's one half of the tag team champs in WWE. It's not the end of the road. But, you know, it's the end of the road if you decide it to be, essentially. The opportunity's there for them to pursue this still. They may never get back to the dance, but the fact that they've been to the dance once does help them get bookings.
Absolutely. And I think to add to that, I think Dolph Ziggler logically is going to join his brother over in AEW. I don't think he's going to be off TV for very long. I think Elias is a logical next challenger for EC3 in NWA. I mean, EC3 tweeted today with a lot of new challengers for my title. and hashtagged Elias on X, I guess, not the X'd, whatever.
That would be a good spot.
And that's a fascinating one, right? That'd be really interesting. Ali, I think, could go to Impact and be X Division champ the day he steps foot through the curtain. I mean, are you kidding me? He's born for the X Division. And then Emma's Impact, logically, Madcap Moss, I think, also Impact. Aliyah, I actually could see getting a look from AEW.
Probably.
I think that would make a lot of sense. Top Dollar is an interesting one to me, because Top Dollar, I mean, we've seen he had the TV show with the Lost Treasures.
A lot of charisma too, man.
Tons of charisma, but I also think the reputation at this point is right. The botches really hurt him, and
he also took
vocal.
He took shots at AEW the first time around, so I can't imagine he's. For me,
it's not going to
going back.
Going back, NWA is the only logical there.
Going back to Mustafa, just one thing. Yeah. I know WWE has the 90-day no compete, but one of the things I think a lot of people don't realize is that is based on the fact WWE paying them for those 90 days. You can waive that. I forget who it was, but somebody waived it not so many years ago. I forget who it was. I think somebody took the out.
Yeah, I said no.
If it's Mustafa,
like Eric Young. Might be wrong. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't. But Mustafa, I would love to see if he's going to Impact. And I don't think WWE really views Impact as a real threat. They've worked with them before, so I don't really necessarily think so. And I think if they know he's specifically going to Impact, they may not make an issue out of it. Impact has their biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory, in his hometown of Chicago. They may not be getting CM Punk, but Mustafa would be phenomenal on that show. That's where I would love to see him debut. If it doesn't happen there, then shortly thereafter he will.
I like that a lot.
Got one more though.
Go ahead.
I need Elias on Impact, and I need him to feud with Joe Hendry.
Oh, I dig that. Okay, that's hilarious. Yes, I don't mind that at all.
I could see him with Dango. Like it would make sense.
I could see that too.
Because I could see him, getting that.
Rick Boogs on Impact, like just
makes a lot of sense.
The fact that he's very TV made and whatnot, and he can kind of learn how to wrestle through the process too. I think he wouldn't be a bad one.
Let's run through some quick comments though and get to throwback really quick, guys. So we got Bobby Petito with I'd like to see Dana Brooke and Emma as a tag team again for Impact Knockouts. Love that. Another one from Bobby Petito. Maybe Aliyah goes to Impact or NWA. I totally agree. How about Top Dollar for NWA? I think that's the only logical landing point for Top Dollar at this point. That's the one that makes the most sense. If he's going to go anywhere, he may actually just audible and focus on the music stuff, because I know he has that going as well. He's been a TV host in the past. I'm not sure he stays in the wrestling industry, and that's not a knock on him. It's just because he's a multi-talented guy, and that could be a logical next step for him.
He's made his money too.
Absolutely. With that, though, let's get into our throwback topic, which is Goldberg's debut match against Hugh Morris, a.k.a. Bill DeMott, the canceled ex-NXT trainer. You can ask Luke Gallows about that. I'm totally kidding. But anyway, this match was a usual Goldberg match. This was a squash's squash. He squashed Hugh Morris. You want to break it down for us, Anthony?
Yeah, the interesting part was Goldberg really is, in a lot of ways, the only major WCW guy that was really kind of built from the ground up during the Nitro era. Like, I mean, a lot of them had establishments, other places, and it was a platform. But like Goldberg's that guy. Jim Ross said that. He's like, WCW built one guy and it was Goldberg. I don't know if that's 100% certain that's the only guy they built, but I can understand the logic behind it.
Glacier?
Yeah, I mean, Goldberg.
I'm kidding.
Goldberg was very much in a lot of ways like the Ultimate Warrior was in the WWF. He came in and he completely demoed people. They had a win streak, which was inflated. Much like wrestling attendance at a show. 1 week he's 23-0, and somehow the next week he's 36-0. Like, you didn't have that many shows during the week. I mean, I don't know what the real number is, but it wasn't that. The 173 really wasn't 173. Goldberg had the intensity. He didn't talk. After he won the match over Hugh Morris, Mean Gene tried to talk to him. He just blew him off. Goldberg was intense in and out of the ring. Famously, before matches, he headbutts a door. Just a little inside information for anybody watching. Clark did that before today's show. That's how he gets ready. Sorry, I gave away your secret, but it fit here. So, Goldberg there was an aura about him, and there's a reason why it works so well, because it was sudden, it was quick, it was impactful. The spear, the jackhammer, everything was quick with him. That's why the first WWE run really didn't work as well, because it wasn't that Goldberg. It was a more drawn out Goldberg. It was the comedy stuff with like Goldust with the wig. And the Goldberg at its peak was the Goldberg you saw in this match, and the Goldberg you saw when he returned to WWE with Brock Lesnar. No one expected that match to go done. And that's the aura of Goldberg. There is an aura about him, and it's a unique character. It worked, and it was the beginning of what would be the streak. And we went over. I know we've done different things with Goldberg, and we did the Hogan match where he won the title. That one we did. We didn't do the end of the streak yet. That'll probably be in December. We haven't done that yet, but Goldberg was very unique, and this was the start of it.
No question. And it's funny because my favorite thing about Goldberg is the entrance. It's iconic, and it was really great when it comes to this match as well. What I think makes it so unique is the security guards accompanying guys now is almost overused, I think, although it does, I think, fit Samoa Joe like they used it last night on AEW. But when Goldberg was accompanied by security, it felt like security was protecting you from Goldberg, not protecting Goldberg from the fans. It was like they were walking out a guy that's dangerous. So they were there in case things get out of hand, because they so obviously could. And that mystique, that aura, starting with just looking at Mean Gene, basically I'll get you too, and walking away and not saying a word. And Mean Gene sold it perfectly. It's one of my favorite memories of Goldberg. Shad, what are your memories of this debut from Goldberg on Nitro?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the initial, viewing of what was such a dominant character for the WCW. I mean, you talk about presentation and building characters. I think that's one of the most key things within professional wrestling and sports entertainment. And they just made him there's not a and it's still copy and pasted to this day within a lot of wrestling, but dominant quick victories makes a beast of a wrestler look strong. And I mean, that's what it was initially. This first match, it was quick, came in there, did his couple move sets, and got out. And that's what a lot of his matches were. I mean, I wonder what the average time of his matches were on a title reign, if someone could pull the math.
It's under 10 for sure.
I think the average was 3 minutes, but I don't know whether or not that's
he was able to get in there and do his job. But like you were saying, man, I remember just as a kid, watching Goldberg's, it's the presentation, man. He had the coolest entrance. He had the cool pyro. He had the security guards making sure that he wasn't going to murder somebody by the time he murders his opponent in the ring. And I mean, he was just a dominant figure. As you get older, you're kind of you look back and you're just like, okay, it was very safe, put people in harm's way. And obviously, everything tied to what Bret Hart and whatnot. That's a different topic of within it. But I mean, the character of Goldberg himself is definitely iconic. And like Anthony said, this was the guy that WCW built homegrown. And I mean, they knocked it out the park, man. He's a legend.
No doubt. And I think the amount of wrestlers that he's kind of inspired since is telling for how big of effect he had. I mean, you look at Wardlow. And Jade Cargill.
That's a great point,
right?
Undisputed. Yeah.
I mean, the undefeated streak, and even Jade never wrestling a match until her debut, right? Even that aspect is similar. And And you know, we kind of forget things like that, I think, sometimes when it comes to Goldberg because of what happened later in the career.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other thing I'll add, and it has nothing to do with that match, but man, I wish he came over in the Invasion initially. That would have been so fun. That would have changed so many things.
It depends on the booking.
Because
Ultimately,
it should have been him instead of Stone Cold in that spot for WCW, ECW. But
yeah,
we can't. That's a topic for another day. With that, though, it's been an awesome Throwback Thursday. Thank you so much, Anthony and Shad. Awesome show as always. For those of you on YouTube, please follow us over on Instagram. We love it. Give us the like and subscribe if you haven't already. That helps us out. And thank you so much for all the comments. We'll be back tomorrow at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, 8 over in the UK. Awesome to have everybody as usual and see everyone soon.